Joining me over the last couple of videos, we took the stripped down Trek 4300 frame and built it up to a complete bike. The end result was this, Project Tiger as it's come to be. It's sort of a cross between an adventure bike, crossed with a mountain bike, crossed with a road bike. One thing is for certain though, this bike looks a whole lot better than I imagined. It took on a military vehicle look, so much so that I added an Army star and a designation. Looks aside though, where we left off last time was the completion of the build. Since this is my first bike build ever from the ground up, if the bike doesn't explode under me, I'll consider that a win. As much as I immediately want to take the bike out on a dirt trail or up a gravel road, let's stick to the city for now. We'll save the craziness for another video if the bike makes it through this. So without further ado, here's the maiden voyage of Project Tiger. Aside from the illegal paths that I witnessed starting out, things feel pretty good getting out on the road. The bike handling feels snappy and responsive, just as I hoped. Its weight may have a lot to do with that. After everything was said and done, Project Tiger comes in at just over 27 pounds. I didn't plan for that, but I'll take it. The steering is responsive even though I'm struggling to find a comfortable position on the drop bars. That's just me though. Even though V-brakes, they have some serious stopping power, but there is more adjustment needed there. Looking at the components in more detail, on the back is an 8-speed 1132 cassette connected to the Shimano Alivio derailleur that feels rock solid surprisingly given its age. The drivetrain wraps up with the IFX crankset, JG Bike 32-tooth chainring with those stock pedals. Moving up to the front is the Sunlight fork and the 26-inch Bontrager wheels and the aforementioned V-brakes. In the cockpit is the really solid feeling FSA Adventure drop bars and micro new dual shift levers. All of this is connected to a Bontrager sports stem and FSA headset kit. The saddle is a Venzo mountain bike saddle that I'll speak on more later and a Bontrager seat post. In essence, this is still a Trek with the Bontrager components with a few upgrades and conversions of my design. All that said, let's give the bike its real test. If you watched my last bike review video, this road will look familiar to you. The stretch of hill is exactly 1 mile and a steep and steady climb the entire way. My state at the top of the hill is how I judge the gear setup. Enjoy the ride for a couple of moments as I power up the hill. That was terrible, and much more difficult than it should have been. My 3-speed Cooper takes that hill 200% better than this. This gear range stinks, and I can only assume that it's due to the limited 1x8 on an 1132 cassette. It's a bit disappointing as I had high hopes for this setup. While we're on things that are not so good about the bike, I keep having pedal strike, bad ones and unexpected. It's especially bad in turns. This is something I'll need to be mindful of while on the bike. Not sure if it's the pedal themselves that are causing this, or if the bottom bracket and crank arm setup is out of sorts. I'll need to tinker with that to see if I can get the issue sorted out. Something else that's not to my fault is the cable routing. I don't like that top tube mount cable routing. It's ugly and hard to manage. To help keep those cables from rubbing the paint, I added these zip ties. Not only does it keep the cables off the paint, but the connector from the zip ties helps to keep the cables separated. I think it adds to the overall look too. I'm a little worried that this could cause some unnecessary wear though. I'll need to keep an eye on that. Lastly is the seat. This thing is uncomfortable. It was a cheap Amazon purchase, so I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but gosh, this seat is no fun. I have a thought to correct this though, so be sure to check back for that. Even though this sounds like a lot of negatives, there are some positives. Even though not the bike itself, the name Project Tiger comes from its original black and orange color. Since I've painted the frame to the khaki color like a military vehicle, I've been asking myself if the name is still appropriate. By accident, I stumbled on a squadron of American P-40 fighter planes from World War II called the Flying Tigers. A quick search and an Etsy purchase later, and I now have the Flying Tiger decal on the way to decorate my Project Tiger. Project Tiger now suits the bike more than ever, and I consider that a happy accident. The biggest positive here is I built the bike from the ground up, and that's something to be proud of. I had a lot of firsts with this build, so the fact that the bike is even staying together is an accomplishment in itself as far as I'm concerned. Also, I forethought this build and left myself some room to grow. Many of these components can be upgraded and potentially fix some of the issues that are looming over Project Tiger. I'll continue to work on these issues, so I hope you'll check back on the progress. I hope you've enjoyed watching this build as much as I've enjoyed building up the bike. I accomplished what I set out to do, so there is a check in that box for sure. Regardless, it's not what you ride, but just as long as you're riding. So thanks for watching today, and remember to get out and ride.